Hi, thank you so much for having me. It's really great to be back, and I owe a lot to GMAT club. I grew up in Russia. I did my undergrad there. I also started my career there at a company called Mercedes-Benz, the automotive manufacturer. Many of you know, and I spent 7 years with the company, so I wasn't really jumping. I was very loyal to one company, but within my 7 years long career, I actually managed to relocate from Russia to Germany to the headquarters. And this is where I spent several years right before my MBA. I was a product manager responsible for software in electric vehicles. And after having spent 4 years in Germany, I decided that it would be a good time for me to do an MBA. So I applied to several schools, massively relied on the support of the GMAT club community and ended up at Stanford Business School. So I think during my career in Russia and Germany, I felt like I got significant exposure to the European market, European employers, and I obviously also traveled a lot. And I was really eager to explore a new continent, a different continent. And U.S., as we know, is the home to best MBA programs in the world, and so it was pretty easy for me to decide and to settle on the fact that I would be applying exclusively for the American schools. I applied to several of them, and ended up in the Silicon Valley. Oh my God. MBA completely changed my life. Still the same person, but many things happened about my career. I definitely made a huge career pivot that I'll elaborate on later. I changed places. So now I live in the Silicon Valley, I live in San Francisco. But also the way I see the world, I think, massively evolved because once you come to a business school, especially if it's a program that has a significant share of students from all over the world, you just get exposed to so many different things and cultures and traditions and customs and holidays. And I feel like my world expanded massively now that I have so many friends from 60 countries, and I can travel to those places, and there will always be someone local who will show me around. This is one big transformation, so I just feel like my world became significantly larger. And another part is just understanding new markets and new industries, because once you come again and become a part of this very diverse community, and diverse also from not only from ethnical backgrounds, or in terms of where people come from, but also in terms of what industry your students, your fellow co-students came from. And you start learning so much about everything, who did what in consulting, how they approach their career, who went to investment banking and how it exactly it works, private equity. I mean, I didn't even know the word private equity to start with. It's a private equity, venture capital, and there's so many different areas. Obviously tech, especially, I went to Stanford, so many people come from tech background, but also government, military. And you just get to know so much about all the different industries directly from your peers. And this is really it's exciting on one side, but also it gives you an opportunity to kind of check, maybe this is the industry I want to go to. And so in my case, I ended up pivoting from the manufacturing sector, from the automotive sector, into VC. And so right now I work as a chief of staff at Khosla Ventures, which is a big venture capital firm. For sure, because obviously people share, in their classroom, they talk about their experience, whether it has some link to a certain geography or they talk about their experience in a certain industry. And so people bring up various, points of view, and it's really encouraging, especially in the modern world where we sometimes see, we see a lot of polarization, and it feels sometimes that people, lose the ability to have a really nice, educated debate and a dialogue, and bring up different points of views. But in this environment it is possible, and I really enjoy that. That's one part of it. And then also outside of the academic, outside of the classroom experience, through clubs, professional clubs, or just through any kind of regular activities, like at Stanford we had a GSB show. You get to know your classmates from so many different sides. They turn out to be like people with multiple facets and so many talents, and just it also encourages, it motivates you to explore different kinds of your own personality. So spend more time on some things that you probably, you liked in the past. You like playing a piano, and now you see many of your classmates also play piano, and they even like start jamming together, and you're like, okay, actually, I think I could get back to it. And this is really exciting. So it's not purely about the academic experience, but just kind of getting an opportunity for 1 year or two, get back in touch with yourself, stop running in terms of your career. It's still, your career is progressing during that time, and you're doing so many different things, but also it gives you a chance to like pause for a second and look inside yourself and see, based on all the new information you're getting, what could be a path forward for you. Oh my God, this is a $1 million question, or at least 250K kind of question. I, let's leave the experience part aside, right? Because you can't really quantify it, and it's just really so magical to spend 2 years, in a beautiful, on a beautiful college campus, a few years after you graduated already, and spend time with other talented people. Let's leave this aside. You can't quantify it, and it's really magical. It's worth just this thing. Is worth lots of money. But let's just focus on numbers. I I do think some MBA programs are, worth it more than others. And so I think it's a right question to analyze, how much does the program cost? And you can look into employment report and see what's the average income of, someone who is graduating. Now, in the markets like the United States, just the income part is not enough, because so many people get equity that vests over time, and so you sometimes don't see the numbers. You'll see like, okay, the average salary is 185K, but you don't know that people got a carry, percentage in the fund, some participation in a startup, or there's some other form of, like delayed gratification, and some financial incentives that kick in a little bit later. And so it's important to analyze it. For me, it was worth it. So even though when moving from Germany to the United States, the cost of living for me increased, not only if we take, in consideration just the time at Stanford, living in Palo Alto, one of the most expensive places on earth, but also now that I stayed in San Francisco, my cost of living is higher. I think it's roughly 2x of what I used to have in Germany. So while comparing the income, it's also important to see how your cost base is evolving, and sometimes it eats a part of your income growth. And so it's that the costs increase 2x. And I'm being very honest about numbers, because I think that's the information that everyone is dying to have and dying to understand. So, and then in terms of my income, but my income increased significantly more. So it was much more than 2x. I think it's roughly maybe 4 to 5x just of a regular income. But then on top of it, there's also, a bonus component, and there is, there are various other kinds that are linked to performance. So for me, just mathematically, if I put it all on Excel table, it was definitely worth it. And now what's important to understand, I think, is especially if in in those programs that are focused on entrepreneurship, where you get, you become a part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem. It means that your upside actually is endless, because you're able to build your firm, and or you can also start your own investment fund, which is one of the things that kind of I aspire to do. So your upside, your maximum income, is pretty much endless. And so if you really are, open to working hard for many, many years, and, investing your time and effort in, maybe sacrifice some of the things that, other people do a lot, I think it's totally worth it, just because of the upside. That's one component. It's endless. Right after graduation, you land at, let's say after Stanford, you land at maybe 185K, I think was the number in the latest report. But you, from there you can go endlessly high. And this is oftentimes possible thanks to an MBA. Of course, if you have an engineering degree, you also have a similar upside. So, if anything, if you're you kind of doubting if you need to do an MBA, and if you have an engineering degree, this is where I would analyze this ROI in a little bit more detail. But everything else, I think the upside is endless, and also your downside is completely protected because you get this diploma, you get to stay in the country where you move to, and like nothing super bad will happen to you because you're a highly qualified individual with a network that empowers you. And you can always, even if you I don't, people get fired all the time in the United States. If you get fired, you have a network of classmates that like you, and hopefully, think and speak very highly of you based on how what you did in the classroom. And you can always tap, and like you can rely on them during harder times. When it gets challenging, when the market is bad, your classmates can help you, and even more so, they will be able to help you in the future as everyone is succeeding. So your entire network is kind of progressing and improving their situation, their financial situation, and the connections. The connections grow, and it just gets frankly easier with time. I didn't have that giant network before coming into school, and now I really feel pretty safe because I can always just ring someone up and say, hey, I'm in a difficult situation, whatever, I was just fired. um, do you have any opportunity for me? And so, just as a way to express my gratitude, I wanted to encourage everyone who's watching this video to make sure that you do, sign up to participate in the MBA Spotlight that is happening June 11th. I have participated for sure in at least a few during my process of, during the application, but I also moderated in a few sessions, and it's a great opportunity to figure out what schools fit you, because schools across the world are so different in terms of their DNA and the character and the type of people they want to attract. And the GMAT club team assembles incredible panels of both faculty and people from the admissions teams, and also current students and alums. And it really, I think the best about that event is that you get a chance to really understand whether a particular school is a good fit for you. And now this gets even more important when you get successful, and you certainly will get successful, and you get admitted to several schools, and so then you need to pick the school, and this is a harder task than applying for a school, believe me. I had the privilege to be selected by several schools, and it was hard. I cried. I couldn't select. I couldn't choose. And this joining sessions like MBA Spotlight just gave me so much information and made it a little bit easier to make a decision. So please, sign up. There's, I think you guys will post a link under the video, and I hope that many people will join.